Here we go. Turn this out of the way. All right, here we go. So this is chapter 41, and we're doing our super tour through the body system. We're going to get through this probably, I think we're about to end this, so we'll be talking about ecology next week, which is a really cool topic, a fun topic, I think, also in biology. All right, so what is the purpose of the reproductive system, right? Well, we can think about that real quick, right? Right off the bat, it is to create new species, right? To continue the species, not necessarily recreational purposes, right? Which I'm sure that's part of it too, right? All right, so let's take a look at the different animals. We're just going to follow the PowerPoint there. We'll try to answer most of these today. Okay, so we have two types of reproduction. Actually, a lot of the animals can do asexual reproduction out there in nature, right? The sponges, they are the simplest animal. They just actually break off a piece of them and it becomes a new sponge, okay? Cnidaria, flatworms, and some of the others, man, they can do some crazy stuff. They can be hermaphroditic, meaning to have what, both male and female reproductive structure, right? So we'll just run through that, look at some of those. So there's a hydra, they can actually do sexual reproduction or asexual, where they just break off a little twig here, a bud, and it becomes a new hydra, okay? Many of them, most animals are dioecious, meaning they have separate sexes, like we have the male and female, right? But others, like we see, are monoecious, meaning they're hermaphroditic, and they can be both male and female. These include some of the earthworms can do that, right? And we'll see some others. Think about the Cnidaria can do that too. They both swap sperm, right? So they each get pregnant pretty wild. Okay, but then here's the term we're going to see a lot in this chapter called the gonad. The gonad is the zygote producing organism, and the zygote meaning the sperm or egg producing male female contribution to the baby producing structure. Okay, and for the human, you know, the male is the testes, and then the female human is the ovary, right? And then the eggs and sperm come together, form a zygote, and then you have the start to divide into different cells. We got a chapter on development, which I'm not going to do a whole lot on 42. I really kind of skip through that when we get on the ecology. But you basically have these germ layers that are on every ACT test ever given, right? Remember, this is very early on, you become 1 cell, 2 cell, 4 cell, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, whatever, double that. Then you start to form these what are called embryonic germ layers, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. There were more questions, okay? Others can have modification of sexual reproduction. They can become male to female, female to male. A lot of crazy stuff can go on there. Copulation is when they come together. Most of the animals have this internal fertilization, but the fish, she lays her eggs and the male puts the sperm on them. So they have a lot of times they have an external fertilization. Terrestrial vertebrates, vagina, penis, birds. A lot of the birds have what's called a calica there, which is the opening for the female where they pass their digestive material and reproductive function. So both of you will be like the vagina anus or whatever. Okay, there's a better way to put it. Okay, pretty wild stuff there on that. Here are some insects, and you can see the female curls her tail around the male and gets the sperm from him, right? Receives the sperm from the male that way. Okay. More of it, they going on, we'll get on to it. Here we go. There's our female, male with the birds, right? Both of them got to look out for that. I'm going to get on into the male reproductive system. We'll go ahead and look at the male here. Let's go take a look at the male. And so don't try this at home with a chainsaw. This is pretty painful, doesn't it, guys? Okay, doing this chainsaw view. But the male structure, the testes, we're going to see in just a second, is made out of these seven different tubules, right? But when the sperm are made in the male, it is stored in a structure. If examining a testicle, you can actually feel the epididymis, and that's a little subbag behind the testicle, and this is where the sperm is stored. Men make several, maybe 20, 30 million sperm a day, and they're stored here. If you have a vasectomy, which is the most effective form of birth control other than abstinence, right? But if you have, and so a lot of times couples, the male will have this tube, the vas deferens, severed. They actually go in and they give you some liquid nitrogen or whatever, get you a little bit high, deaden this back here, and they come in from the back of the scrotum and they use like a hot iron and solderize that vas deferens like 3 times, like melt them together. And that keeps the sperm from going up into the ejaculatory duct to be released during ejaculation. But the epididymis is reabsorbed. So there is a reabsorption of sperm by the epididymis. So if you do not use the sperm, they will be reabsorbed by the epididymis, and they're reabsorbed if you have that vasectomy. When you get excited, the male gets excited, he has this constant thing called emission, and the sperm leaves the epididymis, it get pushed up this tube, and get carried to this ejaculatory duct right here, and we see 3 other glands put their fluids into it. So what comes out of the male, the semen, is not just sperm. Okay, sperm is only like 5% of it. So if you have a vasectomy, you still ejaculate, you're just literally ejaculating glands. Okay, there's no sperm in there. Okay, it's really not a very, very effective method. Okay, the other fluids are the seminal vessel fluid, which I believe is like over 75% of the fluid is this one. And this is food for the sperm. And it also has some very strong base to neutralize the vagina acidity. Okay, so the female vagina is a major source of infection, right? Where women could get diseases, right? You know, this environment, it's open wound. And so God made the vagina very acidic to kill bacteria and fungi and stuff, including the invading sperm. So that layer of acid actually stops that, but this neutralizes it long enough for the swimmer to get up and fertilize the egg. I cannot tell you, I mean, I've been teaching a long time, but to me, when I think about ejaculation and the beginning of the organism and think the Normandy invasion. We've all seen the World War II movies, right? Where the guys pull up in Normandy and it's like everybody they open the thing and it's like, and they just all fall out of the thing dead. Okay, check this number, blow your mind. Normal copulation, 500 million sperm per event. I remember the first time I heard that in college at Ole Miss, I literally stopped, raised my hand, and go, excuse me, I got mad here. Did you just say 500 million, half a billion? Yes, Mr. Austin, shut up. Yes, yes. So right there now, you should know why there's no male birth control pill. We'd have to take a pill that would stop you from stopping 500 million swimmers being released right every time. Whereas the female birth control pill, I'll come back to that question. All we got to do is stop an egg once a month. And if you have genetics we do have people that have twins and stuff, that you like double, triple ovulate. That's where most twins come from. Okay, but you only have 2 or 3 days out of the month for a girl can ovulate where she's fertile. Yes, sir. There is not an effective male birth control pill yet. They have one out, but I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it. Because I don't think it's that effective. But no, I've never seen anybody take it. But I've read one in the book, but I would. So I think I've read about one, but I don't think they've been approved. I don't know much about it. I just know my teacher, psychology or something. They're working on one. There's one in some literature, but I ain't never seen anybody use it. And if I were a woman and some guy told me, don't worry, I'm taking a pill, I would just want to buy that one for a second. Okay, because my take on reproduction here, old man here, working with young people for 35 years. If y'all have figured this out, guys and girls, most people will tell you whatever they need to say to get what they want. Just FYI, okay? Just FYI, I'm just saying, so I love that. What was that movie one time? They said if a guy asks how many women he's been with, whatever number he says, subtract 5 or 10, right? And then a girl gives you a number, add 5 or 10 to it. That's really brutal, but there's a lot of truth to that. It's weird how we treat people like that, right? If a guy's a player, he's thought of as high, oh man, and a girl, if she's a player, then they get other words for that, right? I'm the father of 2 daughters. I think we should treat everybody the same, right? Wait till you get old enough to know what you're doing. I wouldn't date until I was 35 dollars. The only thing we can get married when you're 30, okay? But that's just my advice. Okay, take it or leave it. But anyway, get them in there. There is a male birth control pill, but I don't think I've ever seen it being used. I think it's like one of these that it wastes a lot of money on it, but I don't think anybody's using it. But the birth control pill, the girl is the most common used birth control method. Okay, for monthly sterilization, when the tubes are tied, or vas deferens are very effective, but they're probably permanent. One of those two is probably the most common birth control method. But good question. Fair enough. Fair question. Okay. Other stuff here. Looking at this, the prostate gland also makes fluids that help neutralize the female, and you can see how all those come together here. And then this Cowper's gland, Bobo, you read that, also called the Cowper's gland. It produces the fluid that comes out of the male before he ejaculates. That is lubricants for the penis during copulation with the female. But the woman usually makes the lubricants in her body more than the male. This is the male version of that. And it is quite often full of sperm because the males are really excited and he's probably excited. And sometimes they just kind of like, I get to, has everybody been to, maybe you've been to a bar, not drinking, but you've seen somebody mix a drink. It's just hard to mix a drink and not spill a little bit, right? on the counter. So we're mixing a drink here with seminal fluid, prostate fluid, bulbourethra fluid, and sperm. So there's going to be some leakage in here, okay? And you will, many women have got pregnant without the male ever ejaculating them, okay? Just a little FYI there, that happens every day, okay? Because it just there's some sperm that seeps through there, okay? Looking at the other one here, guys, something y'all got to look forward to. One of the most common forms of cancer in men is what? Prostate cancer. You can see where it's at. And so what it does, the first problem is you start having a problem urinating, or you always want to go to the bathroom because it swells up and cuts off that urethra. And there's a test they can do that is, they can do an antigen test, but most doctors are going to want to get a hold of that and fill it. So guess how they fill that? Yeah, it's me. I'm looking like that. They're waiting for me to tell the answer. Okay. So girls, I just want to say this right now. I can't imagine how it must feel to have a gynecologist now. That's got to be tough. So I just think that's really tough. Well, this one ain't much. It's not quite too funny. So they put a little glove on the finger and they reach up and fill the prostate. And that's actually the best way to know if it's swollen or not. That's one of the best signs to tell if you have prostate cancer. But that's one of the top forms of cancer in men. Other thing I think is kind of interesting here, just kind of rambling here, but going over this. The foreskin, a lot of people, I have a lot of girls like, what's that about? What's that? Okay, but there's naturally a covering over the penis head that is removed by circumcision. So that is very bizarre to me, right? Think about that. Why would we be cutting off people, right? And it's usually religious, right? Because in the Bible, God wanted the Jewish people to be distinctive. And so he made that to be a Jew, you have to have that done, or you're not going to go to heaven. Okay, you're not going to be these people. And so a lot of people in Europe were killed because they circumcised in World War II. As the Germans tried to exterminate the Jews, that's how they determined whether you're Jew or not. It doesn't matter, you could be Baptist, if you had circumcision, you got to go in there with them. Okay. Well, I mean, really bad, really bad. And so that's something. But I think what says 56% of men in America get this done at birth. Usually, if the mom and dad's been circumcised, usually they say, "Oh, this little junior needs to be circumcised too." Not really a good reason to do it. There is less STDs and a little bit less chance to get an infection of some sort if you are circumcised. Okay, because obviously that's a place where bacteria and stuff could hide or whatever. But it's still just religious preference, I believe, mainly. I guess I forgot to start the class off. I always tell this little bad joke or funny joke, I think, to start this off. Because people don't like, people are either people are really interested in this chapter or they feel very uncomfortable. Okay. But I don't want to try to be freak anybody out. But I will tell you a funny story for me. My 28-year-old daughter, when she was about 3, we would go home for Christmas, and I have a sister who had a little boy that was 4 at the time. He's a year older than her now. He's 29. He's a pharmacist in Texas, Dallas. So we were at my mother's house. This is 20-some years ago, 26 years ago, whatever. And they had been out in the mud playing 4-wheelers, and we do the farm thing. They got cows and everything. So we did all this fun stuff, and they are muddy as can be. And the Robinson Christmas starts in 30 minutes at the Guntown Gun Club. We would have shoot skeets and worship and praise Jesus okay, with guns. Okay, we would go to a shooting range. We went to Mississippi rednecks with guns, everything's guns. Yeah. Anyway, so they had to clean them real quick, right? They had to get a bath in like 10 minutes, or we're gonna be late. So my sister and my wife said, let's just, their brother, cousins, let's just strip them down, put them in the bathtub together, wash them real quick, and they're not gonna hurt anything. The first cousins, and I can freak them out, they know about male female. We've already talked about male, because my sister's a biology teacher too. They know anatomy, we're not gonna be nothing crazy. They throw them in the bathtub. And the first thing my little nephew goes is, "Ooh, mama, where's Randy's teleworker?" Which I use the actual term. I think penis and vagina is a better term, right? Okay, anyway. Because she ain't got one. And he is obviously, my sister hadn't explained it very well. What really worried me about my daughter is she grabbed his and went, "Ooh, what's this? This looks like something fun to play with." So I had to really watch her during my night here, right? And they grabbed each other and pulled them up and had that moment like Home Alone. And they told me 5 years later. They waited until you tell us what happened. Okay. So I have a reason for that. Why do we have an in and an out? Okay, it makes sense, doesn't it, right? We all got our receptacles to plug into our phone, right? It just, you transfer electricity or transfer something, it's easier to have an in and out, right? A terminal and a receptacle or whatever. Okay. A better question is, why did God put the testicles dangling between the leg and between a male's leg? That is just cray cray, right? I mean, if you just looked at it from another planet kind of thing, like, that's weird. That organ is, you've got to have that in ovaries to continue the species, right? So why would you dangle the male gamete gonad in a bag dangling between the legs? It's exactly right. It's actually temperature. Spermatogenesis won't occur by temperature. And so it has to be regulated. It needs to be 2 degrees below light temperature. Some people think it may be a theory there for a woman to stop the event too, because it is a very vulnerable thing. Right? You just hit that thing and it's over with. Right? Or, you know. Anyway, I mean, it is very, very dangerous. I mean, somebody's trying to do something you don't want it to happen, man. That you put a well-placed knee there, and they'll be crying almost about an hour. Okay, but the other one, I always say this, kind of a joke here, but I think the sexes would get along a lot better if every girl dangled her ovaries under her arms for 2 days. They just dangled, and every boy had a really good written line period. Really ugly, rough period, right? I just think we'd get along better, right? I'm just saying we would understand what y'all are going through. I mean, I'm just trying to get us all to love one another, right? I'm just saying, because we really don't understand what y'all have to go through, guys. Okay, really don't. And y'all have it way worse than we do. I totally believe that, okay? That food thing is a mess. And we're going to have this big discussion question, what's going on there. But any kind of that side, any questions on males? Anybody have, there's no question. This is PG-13. I mean, I actually used to let people write something down and hand it in, and I would clean it up and bring it back to class next time. We don't meet once a week, you know. But if I know the answer, I call a doctor friend and find out. Okay, so I have had some, and we do a full lab and AAP. We just in normal year talk about STDs and birth control and make sure everybody knows what's going on. You'd be shocked how many people don't know how this system works, yet they are practicing it quite often. Practicing a lot. Okay. Okay, so there's really, we'll see this minute, there's only a window of like 3 days out of the month usually for a woman to get pregnant. And so if you were to just not have sex on those 3 days, that's like 75% chance to get pregnant. And if you were to have a birth control pill, that adds it up to like 99.999. And then if you were just to use a condom while using a birth control pill while not having sex 3 days a month, then it's an act of God if you get pregnant. If you're doing those 3 things and you get pregnant, call me. I want to watch that child, make sure it's got school shoes and take care of it, because God is going to do something really big with that child, right? I'm just saying that's because it is like divine intervention if you get pregnant like that. Okay. So and 1 out of 5 couples never have the number of kids they want to have. Did y'all know that? So 1 out of 5 couples never have the number of children they want to have, because we have a lot of infertility among our couples. So it really is a problem. It's hard for some people to get pregnant and carry a kid full term. Okay, I know we kind of went through a lot there, but I think that's pretty cool because, I mean, like I said, this is one of my areas of expertise, and we did a lot of studies on this. I worked on, we actually, in my research at Ole Miss, we were taking the testicles of rats and cutting it out and growing the cells that make sperm in petri dishes. And then these guys are doing it before I got there. I just didn't read on the other chemical. I just followed them. But they got really big. They got on first page of USA Today with this research they did. We would then do the second measurement that we talked about, cyclic AMP being produced for a measured cyclic AMP, and we would put the hormone FSH on them, and you would get this much cyclic AMP every time. Then they put THC, the active ingredients of marijuana, which back then the only legal marijuana in America was grown at Ole Miss. Don't y'all know that? But up until the state started legalizing marijuana, all research marijuana came from Ole Miss. They drove it down there by the football field over there, down there where the disc golf course is. They still got one down there. They got guards and stuff, and they would harvest it and they would pull out the active ingredient. But when we put THC on it, it lowered sperm production by like 30%. And that was a very big deal because that indicated that was the first proof ever published that marijuana can alter the reproductive system of the male. So little Jimmy may be messed up because daddy smokes a bunch of dope 20 years ago. Oh. Okay. I'm just saying that, so there could be some links there, right? And then we saw some differences in female. So I come in, and my research was looking at a chemical called phenvalerate that's in rat killer. It's like a roach killer. It's a herb pesticide. It's supposed to decompose in 12 hours of sunlight. And I sprayed it up, put it on gravel, put it on top of the biology building for like a week, took it back down, and it still killed roaches. That stuff don't die. I mean, it's good. And then it messed up, and it actually boosted spermatogenesis. And so the point is, just a little bit of side note, here's something interesting. I want to ask you something else, but the average number of sperm per milliliter of male ejaculate is down 50% since 1910. in 100 years. So we're in something that's doing with the production of sperm in men. But it's still got to keep going down for another 80% before we start seeing lots of infertility. Okay, but that is real, and we're seeing it going down. Okay, and it's something in our environment, possibly herbicides, pesticides, something in our diet. Okay, or it's the women poisoning us, taking over. I mean, that's not so joke. I mean, it's the Amazon women that got Wonder Woman taking us out, guys. Okay, I'll get my moral comments going here. Okay, but you know what I'm saying. But that is kind of interesting. Okay, a lot of men can't get their wife pregnant because they get a hot tub every night, and it will kill that sperm production that day. So a lot of weird stuff there that can happen in the male. Okay, here is the seminous tubules. These tubes, you got over 300 feet of tube in here, and these tubes, these sperm are growing in the divide, and when they mature, they fluff off. Those are the flagellum, and all tubes lead to the epididymis where it's stored. Pretty cool. So these are seminous tubules. The cells that make male sex hormones are in between the tubes, called interstitial or Leydig cells, and that is where testosterone is made in men. Okay, pretty cool. So FSH actually binds to the cells here and makes you make sperm, and LH makes you make testosterone, the male sex hormone. So remember those two hormones I said, remember that control reproduction. In men, LH causes you to make testosterone, FSH makes you make sperm. In women, the LH makes you ovulate, and FSH makes you pick your egg of the month. It's going to be the egg that you don't release on day 14 of your cycle. So two same hormones control male and female reproduction. Here, you can see this is the cell I was growing. The one that forms this matrix here is what we grew in the lab. Spermatogonium divides, does meiosis, and then they slough off several million, 30, 40 million a day, and then they all go to the epididymis. The sperm has a digestive enzyme pack called an acrosome that lets it digest the female egg, mid-piece full of mitochondria and power, making ATP to power the tail so it can penetrate the egg. Of those 500 million, maybe they say less than maybe 100 make it to an egg, broke down broken tube, and the first one to fertilize the egg, the female egg releases chemicals to kill those sperm. So one runner of the ticket. If two get in, then you'll probably have your miscarriage because you have the chromosome numbers wrong. You'd be 99 chromosomes, and that would probably kill you. That would kill you. All right, pretty cool. We're going to kind of skip some of this. I think y'all know about some of that word, right? But in the male, or the orgasm leads to the release of sperm in men. It is worth noting that the woman does not have to orgasm to get pregnant or ovulate. That's important to know. Okay, and I think we really need to have more research in female sexuality, right? Because most of the researchers in the last century were what? For men. But now that we have women to do research, and there's a lot of research going on into that, and there's a lot of women that are not enjoying sex as they should, and we have some drugs now. They're actually working on some women's drugs today to help them enjoy it better if it's not something that they enjoy. I think God meant it to be enjoyable between maybe your husband and wife. Okay, but anyway, we can see the semen is what comes out of the male. It contains sperm, and the secretions are already set with these three tubes. Right? We already talked about that. Here is when a male gets excited, the blood flow out of the penis is stopped, so you get the blood, these erectile tissues fill up with blood, and you get the erection. Okay. After the male ejaculates, and most men, they will probably lose the erection. Okay, and then some can get one right back, but some may not have another one for a day or two. Okay, so that's just normal. That varies quite a bit. Okay, and changes as you get older and stuff. And you can see the circumcision here. But just some interesting things people want to know. Okay, urethra there under that talks about the function of all those parts again, which I think I've pretty much hit all those already. Emission is when the sperm gets in the ejaculatory duct, and of course expulsion is after when you have the orgasm. 150 million sperm per milliliter times 5. So that number 500 million may be an actual low number there, but somewhere around 500 million is a good number to say that comes out there. Other control of FSH and LH, and I just said LH controls interstitial cells, makes testosterone. FSH stimulates spermatogenesis in that tube. Okay, and then of course male sexual characteristics, right? Let's have just a fun moment to talk about this. I'm just trying to get to making this interesting, but I do think it is interesting. I really do hope someday that a female plays a male sport, a professional sport, and does really well. I just really would like to say, I think that'd be good, you know. But the nature of things is men are, and don't get me wrong, most of you girls can take me in a fight, oh man, right? She didn't I got a bad day. But I'm just saying, but in general, you know, if you got 18-year-old women running against 18-year-old men, then the women are the fastest person gonna be one of the guys, you know, if you had everybody on her, okay. However, I would love to see a girl play NBA basketball. I think that's an area where they can do right. You know, I mean, there's women look at that NCAA tournament. There's some ladies that can shoot bad hoops, right? And I gotta think there's a golfer somewhere, a girl that can play PGA. You know, they can play in the professional males. But actually, there was a world champion golfer who tried to make the cut, who got an exemption and played some male. She played the one in Jackson, Mississippi, which is like the lowest level PGA event and the whole thing. Because I mean, actually, I think it's during I think the Jackson event is when they're playing the British Open. So, you know, because everybody can play the British Open, so it's like a second tier PGA event, and she couldn't even make the cut on that. Which I think she could if she did not. I wish she would. I was over cheering for her, okay? But it is, I mean, we must have to acknowledge that men are bigger as a group, right, and have more strength, right? I mean, you know, in all the world records, I'm not trying to be ugly, that's hard to but all the world records, there is no world record that the woman outdoes a guy in any athletic event. Hope it happens. Sure, maybe we'll one day. But there's where we are, okay? And it's sad that we don't have more people watching WNBA and the girl stuff because the money is so crazy. You know, you play basketball, you're a millionaire, right? And the ladies, the best ladies that are like to make a living at it. But anyway, it says the father, you know, two girls. But I think we have to acknowledge that. I don't get me wrong. I did not say we all have equal rights. I'm going to fight over that and die over that, right? We all got to be treated equal, but we're not all equal, right? I'm the ugliest person in the room, okay? You know, example. But anyway, pretty wild. And so males, because of this testosterone, that's what's going on. Usually increased height, deeper voice, chest hair, you know, back hair, you know, whatever. Okay, and here's the FSH, LH controls, right? I will tell you though that we have some of this male sex offenders. They are drugs that can give you so you won't make LH to stop some of the sex drive that testosterone. So they do. We have ways we can chemically castrate people because that does lead to some aggression in men. Okay, nobody got a male question. We're gonna move on to the girl. Okay, anybody? Nobody? Come on, man. Somebody have a good question. All right, the girls, right? Your ovaries, uterus, vagina, your structures here. The O side is the egg that is released, you know, and is swept up by the female fambrea, the little catcher's mitt. And we'll get a picture of this. Do we need the picture on the right? Probably not. Sorry about that. They got them on the same page. Here you go. I'll do it. Okay, we'll go like this. Oh, never mind. There you go. Anyway, I actually got a funny one here. Not to be, because that's a pretty rough picture. But I actually threw this picture up, one like this one day. Usually it's not the same. It's like I want to show you the female parts here. Here is, come on, man. All right. The ovary, there's that fambrea that catches the egg. Sorry, but that's a pretty, okay, no time. Everybody's like, okay, look, I had a 35-year-old lady in here. Now, y'all are adults too, though, but y'all probably wouldn't ask a really tough question. I mean, you know, you're like, I won't embarrass Robin, you know, like I'm being embarrassed on this picture. But I've never been speechless before. But I had one of my favorite students, this 35-year-old lady who was in class one time, and she just stopped me on that slide. And there's 80 people who has that picture, 8 consecutive slides, full blown, full screen, naming each thing one at a time. And I'm like, just trying to get through it. And she goes, that's not a very flattering picture of me, Rob. And I'm like, and that same picture is in every book. She could probably, how somebody said that she maybe clean up a little bit there if you wanted to on that picture. Kind of, somebody said they saw some tonsils, like you could see all the way up the body. Anyway, but this woman said, she goes, Mr. Ron, where's the boy picture? And I went, what are you talking about? She said, if you're going to put that picture in the book, I want a man picture of a boy been swimming 5 hours with his little innie, and everything's gone. And I died laughing. I give her the author's phone number because I think you should call them and ask them that. I'm not gonna, but it was very, his men's picture was like, that other picture was like, well, that's normal. Okay, but let's get a picture of a boy been swimming. The boys all get that. Go ask your brother and daddy about that later. Okay, but things tend to hide after you swim for a while. Okay, all right. Anyway, long story short. Okay, this is one a lot of women get a cool moment here. Can everybody understand why women pregnant have to urinate all the time? The alien is sitting on your bladder. So the baby grows in the uterus here. This is going to get really big, right? Matter of fact, one of my teachers has had 4 kids, And she had her first child is actually a swimmer. He is tall and lean, and she has no waist. And she went to the doctor 9 months pregnant. She said, I can feel him he's kicking my throat. And he's like, no. And the baby was like 42 inches long when it was born. It was 2 foot long baby. He goes, I think it was kicking her throat. Because it literally was stretching from here, all the way down. Right then. But that's why the bladder's on that. So baby's in here, and here's our cervix, vagina, and then the levator minor, the folds here, and it's clearly noted here, all the extra genitalia. The clitoris is here, urethra here, vagina, and then rectum. Okay. Get off this picture here. Sorry. Okay. So cervix is the boundary between the uterus and the vagina. It has to dilate 10 centimeters, y'all, for birth to occur, for the baby to come through. That's pretty big. Yeah, that's how they determine how far along you are in labor. Couple of interesting things that we already said about the vagina with this acidic environment. I would also mention, I don't think it's in the reading, but there is connective tissue holding the vagina together, not sealing off the hymen, right? I'm just trying to eliminate some of the myths. Y'all heard, okay, street names to cherry. There is a structure in the female that does tear. It could be riding a horse in the 3rd grade, or doing gymnastics, or first time you have sex. But usually the first time we don't have sex, she will bleed a little bit, and this membrane is torn, but she can still have a period. When a woman has her period, she is shedding the endometrium lining of her uterus. These are cells that come out in the menstruation. If it goes back up in the fallopian tube, that is called endometriosis. That's very painful for women because these cells are alive and they scar and they bind over the tube. So if you have a family member with endometriosis, that's what's going on. You get the flow of the period goes the wrong way, some of it, and it binds to the tubing and can make it fertile for a woman to get fertile. It can prevent the sperm and the egg from falling all the way down into the uterus. But that's interesting that we need to make sure that people understand there is a hymen, okay? But I don't think it's necessarily an indicator for the woman that's had sex or not, because it can tear on its own very easily, okay? Get back here. When we saw the female orgasm does occur. It's not required for her to ovulate or anything. The clitoris is the main way that woman would achieve that, right? And that is the motor. Is erectile tissue, which swells up when she is sexually stimulated, and it is equivalent to the same tissue that makes the head of the penis, which is usually the most sensitive part of the male, and that's the most sensitive part of the female. We're looking at your 28-day cycle, right? Let's get to an ovary here. So here's what an ovary looks like, and you basically have a 28-day cycle where the first day of the month you would pick an egg, a follicle that would mature. And then it takes about 14 days to get to this dropping follicle under hormonal control of FSH and LH. And on day 13, you get a huge surge of LH that causes you to ovulate the next day. Then that Frambria's catcher's mitt catches the egg and drops it down the fallopian tube. Now, there have been a couple of confirmed cases where the Frambria missed the egg. The woman had sex with her husband or boyfriend or whatever. The sperm swim out all the way to the other end, fertilized the egg, and she had the baby attached to an internal organ. So she actually had an abdominal pregnancy, and that baby had to be taken by surgery. And I watched one on that Discovery Channel where they used like 20 units of blood, woman almost bled to death, because one of the coolest things about the female is that placenta forming between the mother uterus and the babies. It pulls off at birth and it stops, and it coagulates. It don't bleed. It stops. And look, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I know I have friends of mine that they used to midwife, when they had their baby at home in the swimming pool or something. I think it's all cool, but my take is, as an old professional of A&P, it's still a good idea to have the baby in the hospital in case every once in a while that fight don't take and you're gonna bleed death for 15 minutes. And they have to go in there and they have to do a hysterectomy and cut your ovaries and uterus out. It's just a good idea to have your baby in the hospital, okay? I'm just saying. Because if something goes wrong, they can save the mama there real quick. If that's one of the great things ever is that placenta. So you give birth to the baby, then you give birth to the placenta. And sometimes it comes out together, but then you have to get the placenta out, and then the woman can start to heal. The eggs mature here. They're already done meiosis 1. By the time you get 15, then you do an egg in a month. And the weirdest thing, the egg doesn't do the final division unless sperm hits it. Then it does meiosis 2. So you don't do meiosis 2 until sperm is pregnant. It's present, not pregnant, and then you're pregnant. Okay, sorry. So it's present. And then the baby will float down the fallopian tube and implant into the uterus. Okay, FSH and LH are controlling this. And here is my favorite picture in the book. So here is the female cycle, 28-day super cycle. Okay, and look at the picture. You have the two anterior hormones, FSH and LH here, and their cycle. This is the ovarian cycle where the ovaries pick a follicle, swell up, release on day 14, and then corpus luteum makes these estrogen and progesterone for 14 days. If a baby doesn't implant in the endometrial lining of the uterus and produce the hormone HCG, then the corpus luteum dies, estrogen and progesterone fall off, and that's what triggers your period. So you have a period in the absence of progesterone. And so then you have a 3 or 4 day period where you shed the endometrial lining, and then it starts to grow back over, and the hormone of FSH makes it all start back over, and you do this 28-day cycle. So the only days that you really are fertile are day 13, 14, 15. And so they've done studies, and most people get pregnant on the day they ovulate. And you should, the sperm will only be alive in a woman for a day or two. So ideally, I mean, if you're, this is crazy, but some of y'all are probably going to get married and have trouble getting pregnant. So you will then try to get pregnant, okay, which is what most people try not to do, right? And you take a thermostat, a thermal temperature of your vagina each day, and it spikes on the day you ovulate, and then you would call your husband home from work, and you would, make sure there's some sperm in there, and she would even hold her legs up over the head. Actually helps to come together. And so there's other things that you can do, but you can do that to try to get pregnant. And that's also the rhythm method of birth control, so you just don't have sex on the days you ovulate. Now, I've never ovulated, obviously, but I've had many students tell me they feel they know they ovulate. They know the day they ovulate. So this very possible, a woman very in her body knows she ovulated. This is pretty cool, okay? But then once you get pregnant, then the hormone HCG is coming up in the slide. But what's this? So then you start the baby implants, and then you make a hormone called HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. That goes back to the brain and tells you to not do any of this for 6 months. Okay, so you stop. I mean, wouldn't it be the worst thing ever to have a baby and the doctor say, "We'll see y'all next week for little Robin Jr. next week"? Like you have a baby every week for 3 babies every week. So the guy just cuts that system off. Now here's the part that gets fun. These two go through the roof. And actually, we got pregnant one time between our daughters. We were trying to have another kid, and my wife got pregnant. She went to the doctor, so she started bleeding. And my best friend doctor said, "Okay, I'm going to take a measurement of HCG on Monday, and you come back Friday. It should be here. Right? It should go up. If it goes down, then what does that say? It's happening. You're losing the baby, right?" And so we went back on Friday. It was going down. And then I called him up. I said, "They put us on progesterone and estrogen." He said, "Do you really want to do that?" And this is one of those paradigm shifts in my mind. And I don't want to lose the baby. He goes, "Baby's already gone. Something's wrong with it, and your body is just rejecting it." And he said, "If we give her progesterone and estrogen, there's only a 10% chance the baby will make it, and then something will be really wrong with it, most likely." So the female body has, just monitoring the baby. If something developed wrong, maybe it had chromosomes missing or something, which a lot of our sperm and egg have extra chromosomes or missing chromosomes, then you have a miscarriage. And then FYI, if I don't see anything else, I hope I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm just trying to make this interesting. And also I want y'all to learn that. Girls, if y'all trying to have 2 or 3 kids in your lifetime, you're gonna have a miscarriage. So like almost 1 in 5 pregnancies in a miscarriage. And we didn't know that, she didn't know that, and it was really, and I was not a good husband, and when she had that miscarriage, I was just like, "We'll just try again next month, duh." And they go, "Well, okay." But it was really hard for her until she got to church one day in a women's class and said that I'm really struggling with a miscarriage. Every woman in the room raised her hand and had one, and they had a bunch of kids. A lot of them, they had kids later, and that give her, some solace. Okay, so that's just something girls know, that it's okay for that to happen. It's natural, and it's really the body just making sure the baby's okay. It's the one that can make it full term okay. And I know we don't know, but natural selection is very important. We have in nature, if something's wrong with development, then that embryo is not going to make it. Then it's just start over. We stop it. So that was tough. So I just say that. So I hope y'all don't experience that. But if you do try to have a house full of kids, that's going to happen, right? But isn't that interesting? So that's actually the tracking, and then this actually the corpus luteum lives for about 6 months, and then the placenta makes the hormones for the last 2 months. Now, and once again, don't get mad at me, but has anybody ever been on a pregnant woman? Would you say they're absolutely 100% normal and just like they always are? No, they are a roller coaster ride. They can be extremely, upset, happy. This is kind of like very emotional thing. She is freebasing estrogen and progesterone. She's on a hormonal high. And so as soon as she gives birth, she goes back to the regular cycle, and that's what causes postpartum depression. You've been on a hormone, freebase run, and now you're back to normal. And please, when y'all have babies, remember this, dads. Where's all the tension been for 9 months? You have been the center of the universe, right? And now what is the center of the universe? The little alien over there screaming hard in the cookie machine. So this is, it's really tough on the woman, right? Honestly, you got to be sure, make sure to take care of her. Okay, so this really happened. Okay, so we give birth, we have our baby, our oldest, and we had to do a C-section. We come home, and I'm in there watching TV as all men should be doing, right? And my wife is screaming in the back, and my mom and dad are in bed. They came over to help. They're really helpful, going to help us take care of the first couple nights. So I go back there, and my wife is sitting there choking the baby with the boob, eat, eat. And the little girl is screaming bloody murder. And when the woman gets all upset, the milk won't open up. You can't give milk. And the milk just won't work. And she's like, I'm a loser. It's ain't working. It's like I got both of them screaming. And so I take the baby and take her to the den, and I'm like, I'm going to lock the door like my wife is losing her mind. So I go in the den, thank God I'm having a calm day. And I did, I'm in, because I can get crazy too. And I'm like, okay, let's see here. Baby's born 2 days ago. Mother's milk's not in yet. Baby's hungry. I'm 27 years old. It took me 20 minutes to figure that out. Okay. So just imagine kids having kids, right? I'm just saying, okay. Now we got like 5 degrees. So I lay the baby on the pallet. I go make a bottle, all that stuff they say about sterile don't mean nothing, man. I got me the little liners, I got some water, I got the little scoop, threw it in, I stirred it with my finger, put it in the microwave, got it good hot, make sure it wasn't too hot, put the little nipple right out of the Walmart box. I didn't even sterilize it. Put that nipple on, I went over there and said, who needs a woman, right? Fed her that box, she drank sucked the whole ball out. I flipped her over back, birth. Don't need no woman. I remember throwing the ball like a clip out of the gun. Just drop the clip, just hold it back. I think I'm like, went and put her in her bed, made me a pallet, and locked the door to my wife's face. That's not between her and the baby. Okay. They say, wake them up. Don't ever wake up a sleeping baby. Okay. That's a bad move. Okay. About 5, 6 hours later, baby woke up. About 6 that morning, I took her in there, stuck her next to mama before she woke up, and the rivers of milk and honey were coming, and everybody's like, I am woman, here we roar, everything's working the next day. But one of my defining moments of my life, okay, and this is probably the last time to live my life when I die. I got the baby screaming right, and my mama comes in the room before I fix the bottle, and she comes up to me, and she's like, and I love my mama, she's like, what's going on here? What's your wife screaming about? What's the baby screaming? What's going on here, man? What's going on? I'm like, they're freaking out, mama. And I just have this moment. I take the small baby, and I hit her knee, and I lay the baby at her feet. And I go, Mama, remember that girl in 8th grade? You said I should date you. You're so bad. Remember that time I did this, and you said, you me? I said, yeah. And she looked me in the eye and go, hey, I ain't touching that kid, man. She had this phobia that you'd do something, kill it, you'd die, on her watch. She said, I'm too old for this stuff. And I did something I've been wanting to do for 30 years. I said, but in your room, go to your room. I got this. Go to your room. And after you do the dishes, clean the house, and fix me 3 meals, you go home tomorrow. You're going home tomorrow. I said, you ain't part of the help, you're part of the problem. I sent her home the next day after she did all the work. Anyway, mother was pretty good. But that's the only time my mother just turned me down, like, I ain't touching that kid. I'm like, come on, Mama. But finally, eventually, I got her to hold the baby. What do you think? Pretty cool, right? You repeat that every time, girls, but your cycle stops when you get pregnant. In that time, obviously, you don't ovulate again. Pretty amazing. Okay, there it is, written down on the table. Menstruation, we talked about that, right? Menopause is when a woman 45 to 50 stops the cycle. And then when you do this, girls, you stop making estrogen and progesterone. And so you may want to take an estrogen replacement pill, right? So that you will stay the same. Because these can affect your personality, right? Any of y'all's mothers go through menopause. We had a pretty good talk about that the other day in another class. I've got a question. HCG is the hormone that you make that tells the brain and the ovary and the uterus and the baby's on board. And that is what we're looking for in a pregnancy test. So when you take one of those little sticks, they are color coded to activate a color if you have that in your urine. And when you go to the doctor, they just go look for it in your blood. So same thing. Those are the female sexual characteristics. Of course, we know about all that. Milk production and breast cancer is a very serious one here. Please be on look out for that. Birth control, maybe we have, I don't think we have a table here. We could have a table here. Birth control pills basically are progesterone that you take, and we tell the brain, and let's think about this. This is going to tell you how birth control pills work. Birth control pills produce progesterone, and they tell the brain that you're already pregnant, so you don't ovulate. So we figured those out in the early 60s. So basically, it makes you think you're in this luteal phase. Let me clear some of this up, sorry. In other words, you take progesterone pills and you think you're in this phase right here where you can't get pregnant this phase. And then you have 21 days of that, then you have 7 days of vitamins, and that's why you have a period. So then you go off progesterone and you can't get pregnant while you're having a period. So there's no more for the baby to implant. Technically, theoretically, okay. Although I've got a good friend of mine who had 3 kids on birth control pills. She had three kids a year apart taking birth control pills, so she is the most fertile person ever knew. Okay, then I got a best friend that could never have a kid, never could get pregnant. So it's just random. But that's how birth control pills work. They replace the estrogen and progesterone and make you think you're pregnant. Others here, I actually had some pictures of these. I thought this is pretty cool. This is the female condom, and they might go broke. I mean, that's about, I think the company about went broke making those, but they're like $200 a piece. But a woman can put that in her vagina and then know that she has protection, right? That she would know that she was protected from STDs and stuff. And here's the condom, put on the hip, put on the penis, right? And then the IUDs, which are somewhat making it look compact, these are put into the uterus and they irritate the lining so the baby can't implant, and they also kill the sperm. For some reason, guys, and this goes back to Roman orgy era, that copper up in the uterus prevents pregnancy. So copper is deadly to sperm. So a lot of those have a little piece of copper. And we see the ones right here have copper and they kill the sperm. And so that comes back that they knew back then that they could do that in a woman that would stop pregnancy. Anyway, we already mentioned the ones I would use several of those. Infertility, look at that. Males, 40% of the time, 50, so there's a lot of 1 in 4 can't have a baby. We can do artificial insemination with where the sperm donor or is like the wife had a problem, or we could have the baby put together as an embryo and then drop it down and let it go in vitro, and the baby then is dropped down the uterus and implant the mother. Today, listen, I'm as crazy you can be. You can have a child, sperm donor, egg donor, surrogate parent, legal mother, legal daddy, 5 parents. That could be like payday at Christmas, right? Cases all over the place. Like me and my wife hired a girl to be a surrogate. I'm just making up this one. Girl freaked out, got the plane, flew to Seattle, give birth in Seattle. What do you think the Seattle hospital is going to do? You give birth to a baby in Seattle. It's yours, the father unknown. Judges are giving it to everybody. All 5 people got the baby. They give it, if you think they give it to the legal parents, but sometimes they give it to biological mom and dad. There's been a bunch of cases of babies swapped in hospitals by crazy nurses. They swap babies that look the same. Tampa, Florida had 6 cases of that back in the, I don't know, back in the 80s and 90s. And that's why it's like Fort Knox has been the hospital for babies, right? I mean, they literally buckle the baby around the mama's ankle, whatever they don't want to lose that, get it mixed up. But I do think I admire a woman that would carry a baby for a family. That's pretty cool. Right? I mean, that would be a really honorable thing, and then you can make $15,000 to $25,000 a year doing that. Really. And they used to, they stopped, but for a while there, you could buy egg and sperm on eBay. I mean, just say, look, man, a couple of Mississippi folks, man, you could get you some, sperm from a rocket scientist genius with an IQ of 300, and then WNBA superstar basketball player, you can buy an egg and ovary, an egg and sperm, okay? But there are places where and here's how they do some of this technique where they can check that. I think I have a question. Last question is there's 3 things you can do to check a baby. Yeah, we can do, here we go. You can do amniocentesis to pull the baby's DNA out, look at it. You can do in vitro diagnosis where they can take one of the eggs from the developing embryo and see if it's okay. Now we got a lot of this going on now, but at some point we may be able to check something wrong with the baby and fix it in the baby. The thing that can happen now is that you can have a test done, and if your baby has some bunch of bad diseases, then you can abort it. You can have abortion up until the 3rd month. So, and that's legal in the United States today. So that we could have selection of the baby against traits, right? And here's some, with AIDS, STD, we talked about that, I think already. Really bad plague here. There's some other one. There's herpes, genital warts on the left, and herpes, I believe, on the right there. These are some STDs that are transmitted that are really bad. I would say one more thing here. I've gone 5 minutes over. HPV, human papillomavirus, is the cause of almost all cervical cancer. And that's one of the top 5 killers of young women under the age of 30. So cervical cancer is an STD. A lot of people don't know that. All right, y'all have a good day. We'll pick up here next time. We'll do another chapter. Thank y'all for paying stand awake. Wouldn't try to freak anybody out, but I do think we need to do a better job in high school.